So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are watching this live stream broadcast from. Welcome to Hindu Academy. We have a live Q&A broadcast every Saturday at 2 o'clock. And the broadcast is all to do with your questions on Hinduism. So we answer any topic around around modern Hinduism, and feel free to join us on our YouTube channel, which is streaming live right now. That is youtube.com/Hindu Academy, or you can join us on Facebook, which is at facebook.com/Hindu Academy. Now, if you're new to the broadcast, let me just quickly explain how the broadcast will proceed. We run for about 50 to 55 minutes. And during the first about 20-25 minutes, we will be focusing on a particular topic of the day. Today's topic is going to be about Mahashivratri, which is coming up next week. And thereafter, we will open up for a general Q&A on Hinduism topics. Now, before we get started, I just wanted to say that we are deeply concerned and really saddened by the recent events that are taking place in Ukraine. And we just wanted to reiterate that we are with the people of Ukraine, and we wish that this situation gets resolved at the very earliest and without too much of trouble to every person living there. Now, let me get started with today's focus topic video, and I will then come back and open up the Q&A around that topic. Bear with me as I share this video.
On this day, Shiva started this dance of creation and destruction. So this is the day which we must celebrate because Shiva has set the world into motion, the universe into motion. This is one reason. Some say, no. On this day, Shiva got married to Parvati. So whatever the reason, that background is just purely iconographic. The important thing is, why do we celebrate Mahashivratri? What is the significance of Shiva? That's what I want to talk about. You see, we have many gods, and one of the most powerful one is Shiva. And the reason why many people relate to Shiva is as follows. Shiva comes with this particular imagery. One is called Yogi Raj. Means you see Shiva sitting in meditation, cross-legged, eyes closed, and deep within himself. This is one of the wonderful ideas that Hindus have developed. The resolution to the human condition is looking inward to see what is our true nature. And Shiva, in a way, reflects this idea of looking inward to see what is our true nature. This is one of the imagery of we connected with Shiva. It's called Yogi Raj. The other one is called Nataraj. Now, this is a very interesting symbol. In the symbol of Nataraj, this means Lord of the Dance. You heard this word, Lord of the Dance. That's what it literally means, Nataraj. Now, this idea is very interesting because it says the creation that we are so sure about in the front of us is not a linear creation going from minus infinity to plus infinity. It says, creation is cyclic. This is a central feature of Hinduism. We say life and death are cyclic, and creation and destruction are also cyclic for the whole universe. These are called kalpa. Now, the idea of Shiva doing this Nataraj is to say the beginning of the cosmic dance. Now, this idea is so endearing that the scientists at CERN laboratory, where they do all this hadron, collider and so on in Switzerland. So the idea of Nataraj is this. You see here Shiva with 4 arms. In one arm is holding a drum. Drum means creating a vibration. The universe, according to modern physics, is a vibration that kind of sets the whole creation into being. If you have something stirring up. So idea of Shiva with a drum is starting creation. On the other hand, Shiva is shown, I am the destroyer of the creation. With the third hand, he's giving boons, saying, look, I am also your protecting fire. Hector, I look after you while you are here. This is the third. And the fourth hand points at his own feet, saying, look, relate to the idea about your essential nature of the spirit, then you'll be released from the cycle of birth. The feet of Vishnu. Now this is, you say, okay, it's just nice, endearing figure, Mr. Lakhani, don't make a big thing out of it. I'm not here to score point with the Shiva tradition, but in the Shiva tradition, you'll never see Parvati massaging the feet of Shiva. Isn't it interesting? She always sits, close to him, is if you like, a companion of equal stature with Shiva. And this is depicted in this wonderful imagery of Ardhanarishwar. Means actually the ultimate reality is neither male nor female. We are both, if you like, everybody, every human being, everything is a mixture of, I feel like Shiva and Shakti, and Shiva and Parvati. This is called Ardhanarishwar. No other religion has given equal dignity to women as the Shiva tradition. Must point it out. Another endearing aspect of the Shiva tradition is this. Shiva is called Ashutosh, or in Gujarati, Bhola Nath. Ashutosh means easy to please. Very simple man, easy to please. At the drop of a hat, he'll give you boons. So this is another interesting aspect. Another difference between, say, the Vishnu tradition and the Shiva tradition is, in the Vishnu tradition, it's called Hari, kind of worship Hari. Hari means one who attracts. And you can see the image of Vishnu is very attractive. And you say, wow, your mind is immediately grabbed by the image of Vishnu. So it in a way attracts you with all the external rasmatas. With the Shiva tradition, it's opposite. It's called Hara. Hari, Hara. Hara comes from Sanskrit Harati. Means I'm not interested in external showmanship. I'm not interested in a lot of complicated liturgy. Just focus on the deeper vision regarding who you are. Ignore the externals. This is the Hara tradition or the Shiva tradition. Very simple, very limited liturgy or ritualistic practice. These are the interesting ideas of the Shiva tradition. And there are lots more I can talk about, but these are some of the main reasons why a lot of Hindus like to kind of relate to the idea of Shiva as ultimate reality, because their temperament is such, they are attracted to this kind of vision of ultimate reality rather than any other form. Not that one is right, the other is wrong. It's simply we allow for this variation in a very natural, organic manner. So if you are interested in Vishnu or Ram or Krishna, perfectly fine. If you don't know, I prefer Vishnu or Shiva, that's fine. No, I prefer Shakti. That is fine too. So we have this variation automatically visible in our tradition. And the idea of Yogiraj is very interesting, saying that if you like, the resolution of the human condition is not some external, not a God in the heavens. It is your essential nature. So one of the most powerful things the Shiva tradition is, it says, you can recite Shivoham, Shivoham. I am essentially Shiva. The external is a nuisance, but the real thing that is kind of trying to pop out through this frame is Shiva itself. This gives the highest dignity to human beings, equating human beings to the level of God. No other tradition comes anywhere near it. I'm telling you, even in the Hindu in the variation within Hinduism, nobody else will talk like that. Shivoham, Shivoham, my essential nature is Shiva. These are endearing aspects of Shiva that a lot of people love.
Wonderful. So, folks, there you are. Today, the focus topic is on the Mahashivratri that we will soon be celebrating this week. And to help us carry on with the rest of the conversation around this topic, I'd like to invite our panel of wonderful members here at our Hindu Academy team. We've got Manish Bhai, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai, and today Manish Bhai comes all the way from India in Haridwar as well. Welcome, everybody. And I will hand over to Manish Bhai to get started with today's focus topic. Over to you, Manish Bhai.
Thank you, Nisit Bhai. Nisit Bhai is our wonderful team member who's always, backbone of our team and leading the team from technical front. And without him, I don't know where we'll be. But it's wonderful to join this show from India in Haridwar, and it's a wonderful place. I've been enjoying last 2-3 days and wearing the Mahadev top as well. So today I'm looking proper Hindu, hopefully. Wonderful festival coming up, Mahashivratri, and it's getting busier in Haridwar as well. There are many people gearing up for that. So it's good to see all that. There are some wonderful Shiva temples here as well. And I'm very close to Daksheswar Mahadev temple here. So it's a wonderful place. So we come to the first question of the day. And the question is, who is Shiva? What is the idea behind Shiva? Vijay Bhai, could you please explain?
Yeah, I mean, as Jayabhai explained, pretty much kind of sums up Shiva. So Shiva is far more than anything. It's actually, Shiva is just a name given, to some belief, but Shiva can be, it's a diverse, broad range of beliefs about Shiva. Shiva can be Dvait, can be Advait. As Jaybai mentioned, I can say Shivoham, I am Shiva. You can worship Shiva as a deity as well. And that's the beauty about Shiva. It's such a versatile way of, versatile way of approaching the idea of Shiva. That it kind of is endearing to so many different people with so many different traditions, so many different beliefs. And even though Shiva can be from the simplest of, can be worshipped in the simplest of manners, as Jaybai mentioned, you can just put a little bilwa leaf on him. And because he's Ashutosh, easy to please, he's quite happy with that. Or you can do elaborate, writing, liturgy, and he will still be happy. I'm very lucky that I've visited the Somnath temple. It's an amazing place of, we feel really peaceful and, you feel the energy, basically, vibration of Shiva. So Shiva is very interesting in that sense. Also, the idea that Jaybai mentioned that, Shiva and Parvati, they're seen as equals. If you look at many of the stories of Shiva, it's very actually common. You see, like, I remember one story about when Shiva said, don't go to the yagna that is performed by your father. And Parvati goes, no, I'll go. Why are you telling me not to go, right? And there was an argument. Shiva said, okay, no, it's like a typical family argument. Shiva said, okay, go if you want to go. Then she went to Daksha's yagna. Despite that, just shows that kind of equal in their decision making they do, right? So that's quite amazing. They're seen as equals. And the idea of Mahashivratri, I would say the best way to put it together is basically the day when both the cosmic, masculine, feminine energy come together and create this wonderful balance in the universe. So every year we celebrate this anniversary of Shiva and Parvati. Also, it's linked to the story of creation as well. So by and large, I think Shiva is a very, very endearing character in so many different ways. One or two other points to add is that even some of the most ancient beliefs in the Indus Valley civilization, from the evidence we have found in archaeological traditions, you can see that something like Shiva in the form of Pashupatinath is worshipped at that time. So Shiva is a very ancient deity, perhaps the first deity. As we know, is already seen in also many of the iconography we have found. You see Shiva kind of image sitting in meditation. So it's not surprising he's seen as Adi Yogi. He is the first yogi in that sense. But something else to add, one last point, is that despite the fact that Shiva can be worshipped in any kind of simple manner, we should also remember there have been some great scholars who have done huge amount of literature and written so much about Shiva. I think in the Kashmiri Shaivism, some of the writings on Shiva runs up to 30,000-40,000 verses. So in the Kashmiri tradition, Shiva is seen not only as something to worship, it's a whole philosophy in its own right. So by and large, I think Shiva is very unique, and I think Hinduism is an immense blessing for us that we have this wonderful tradition. Sita ma'am?
Yeah, I think you've covered it amazingly. As you say, we are very lucky to have the Shiva tradition as part of in the Hindu fold, basically. And the word Shiva itself means grace. So he's such a graceful character that even in a lot of the sort of Hindu mythology, even the demons, they choose to pray to Shiva, not to Vishnu. They choose Shiva because they know that if they pray to him, he will grant their wishes and all of that. But as Vijay was saying, and as Dad was saying in the video as well, the whole Shiva tradition is based on egalitarianism. So egalitarianism between the male and the female, egalitarian depending on whatever class or whatever role you have in society, you are equal in the eyes of Shiva. You are seen as divine. You are essentially Shiva yourself. And it's all about trying to recognize your identity as the ultimate, as the spirit. And that's the beauty of the tradition. And alongside that, we've got Parvati, who just, rather than all the other sort of female deities and consorts in Hinduism, she doesn't have lots of arms. She doesn't have any extraordinary features. And there's a reason behind that. And the reason is that we are saying that all of womankind are equal in stature to Parvati, are equal in stature to God. And that's the beauty of the tradition as well, is this beautiful egalitarianism. We've got this Ardhanarishwar image showing the equality between male and female. He's the most compassionate sort of couple that you can imagine in that sense. So it's a beautiful symbolism behind the image of Shiva. And as we've said before, the image of Vishnu and the image of Shiva are very, very different, because Vishnu is very sort of glossy and colorful with lots of jewelry, and it looks very, very attractive. But Shiva is, in the way the opposite, because, he doesn't have any sort of, beautiful jewels and looks nice and shiny and bright. He's covered in ashes. He's wearing animal clothes in the most simplest way, saying, you don't need to be attracted by all these sort of externals. Focus on the inner journey, focus on discovering your true identity, and that's the real treasure. That's what you should be attracted to.
It's wonderful to hear, Sitaben. Shiva is also called Mahadev and Mahakal. What is the reason behind these terms, Sitaben?
So he is one of the great deities. There's a great deal of mythology around the whole Shiva tradition. And as Shiva devotees, they don't like their favorite deity being sort of classified as the one who only destroys, because the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva, if you're from the Vaishnava tradition, you're more inclined to say, oh well, Shiva's the destroyer and Vishnu is our favorite and he's the preserver, so he gets the nice role. Whereas Shiva devotees say, hey, hang on, that's not fair at all. So Shiva represents the whole cycle of creation, the importance of time in that sort of cycle. And you shouldn't forget that Parvati, when she sort of takes on the form of Durga or the form of Kali, that's what she's also showing. Kala is all about time. Time is the all destroyer. And it shouldn't be seen in a negative light. This is just the way the cookie crumbles. There is creation, preservation, and destruction. And Shiva devotees sort of attribute all three to Shiva, as shown in the sort of Nataraj image, and also shown in the image of Kali. Kala means time. So we're saying that time is essentially the all destroyer. And the image of Kali is terrifying. Sometimes I've shown it to my daughter and she's like, oh, mommy, what's this? But it's meant to be like a bit of a jolt, because, we sort of get very caught up in our sort of mundane routine lives. And sometimes you need that sort of jolt to bring you back towards spirituality, that, hang on, look, what you've got now might be fine, but it's not going to last forever. So, make sure you focus your energies as much as possible on spiritual progress, because life isn't all hunky-dory. It's going to be difficult. And this is what the image of Kali represents. Vijay Bhai? Oh, you're on mute.
Yeah, I was just saying not much to Sita. I think you have covered pretty well. But one thing to remember is that Shiva has known by so many names, Pashupatinath, Lord of the animals, Bholenath, Gananath. So because he's a Lord of all, basically everything, even I think also known as the Aushadhanath, because Lord of all the medicines, all the drugs. Some people say even the dodgy drugs as well. So it's a lot of everything in a way. So Shiva is all encompassing, and the various names and facets of Shiva kind of represent the idea that is all encompassing. That's what I can add to that. Yeah.
Wonderful. Vijay Bhai, so one idea is that this idea originated from the Dravidian culture, the South Indian culture, the idea of Shiva, which was present in India from very ancient time. And idea of maybe Vishnu came from North Indian culture. Is there something behind this idea, or what?
I think sometimes a lot of these assumptions are made, but just to clarify, actually, we can't really say for sure, but worship of Shiva is very, very popular in South India. But as I mentioned earlier, also in Kashmir is also very popular, and by and large in other parts of India as well. So I think in that sense, even as I said, also in the Indus Valley, we have some evidence saying that idea of images of deities in meditation. So I mean, by and large, I really can't say for sure, but no doubt that Shiva is very, very popular in South India, maybe compared to North India. Coming to Vishnu, interesting fact, this is something quite interesting people forget. that Vishnu was actually made very, at one time, Vishnu was not as popular deity as, say, Shiva or, other ancient Vedic gods. And after the coming of Shankara, when Shiva was very popular, it was actually Ramanuja, who is again Tamil, who is the one who actually popularized Vishnu, ironically. His philosophy was responsible of making Vishnu very popular. He's South Indian too. So I guess maybe South India owns both both Vishnu and Shiva. They own both of those deities, and by and large kind of preserve and spread them in that sense. But I think we can't really say for sure. But no doubt, I think I can say for pretty sure that from what I know is that Ramanuja and Madhava from South India were very, very instrumental in making Vishnu very popular all over India, ironically. So there you go. But I think we can't say for sure. But that's all I can add to that point. Sita? Yeah.
Yeah, there's not much more I can add. I think it's very difficult to sort of figure out which part of India from which deity originated. But all we can say is that there are a beautiful sort of, array of deities within Hinduism, and we are empowered to sort of make the decision ourselves as to which deity we are attracted to, or you don't even have to be attracted to any deity. And that's what the Shiva tradition is sort of veering towards, is this sort of, in a way, non-theistic approach, which you don't quite get so much with the Vishnu tradition. So, if you're very sort of devotional by nature, you may be more inclined to the Vishnu tradition and fall in love with Ram and Krishna and all of the various incarnations. But if you are more drawn towards meditation and introspection, then maybe the path of the Shiva tradition is more suited to you. And that's the beauty of it. You can pick and choose, and it's a spiritual democracy. All pathways are beautiful and lead to the same conclusion.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben. So we got a wonderful question from Himanshu Bhushan. He's asking how to realize Shiva. And am I adding a bit on it is, should he do anything special on Mahashivratri? What should he do so he can get closer to Shiva on Mahashivratri Day? Sita Ben?
Yes, this is the beauty again of the Shiva tradition. There's no sort of set prescription. There's no complex ritual around it. You can do what you like. As Vijay Bhai mentioned earlier, you can just offer a leaf, and that's all. As long as it's done with true devotion and true heart, and as long as you're sort of focused on this idea of understanding your true identity as the self, Shiva can help you along in that journey. So that's the wonderful thing. I think more so with the Vishnu tradition, you get a lot more sort of complex rituals, and you have to do this kind of puja and do this and do this and do this. Whereas with the Shiva tradition, it's much more free flowing. There's a lot more relaxed in that sense. So do what you feel your heart tells you to do. If you feel I want to offer a leaf, then offer a leaf. If you want to meditate, then meditate. If you want to read about the stories of Shiva, read about the stories of Shiva. Whatever makes you personally feel close to Shiva, do that, because that's the right way for you. There's no sort of set rituals or set prescriptions. There's some guidance, and some people choose to do things in a certain way and it turns into a tradition, but you don't have to do it. And that's the wonderful thing about Shiva, is the grace that you experience. As long as you show that love, Shiva will give you that grace. Vijay Bhai?
Sorry. Yeah, that's not pretty much to cover. I think you've covered it pretty well. All I can say is, again, one thing about Shiva tradition is that I think quite often people have some set, set preconditions or set beliefs. Shiva in this is very, very open and very, very free on how you realize Shiva. And that's part of the beauty you see in Shiva as well. I think that's what also endearing for many people. To realize Shiva, there's so many ways you can do it. I mean, I guess on Mahashivratri, the best thing to do, which is what Mahashivratri is about, is self-reflection. Unlike other traditions, other festivals in India, Shiva tradition, the idea of the great night, as we do a certain night time, idea is to self-reflect and try and realize Shiva in you. That's the aim of this Mahashivratri tradition. But yeah, by and large, I think the main thing to remember is that there is no preconditions on how you realize Shiva. It's open to you, depending on your, aptitude and your abilities. Yeah, Manish Bhai.
Wonderful answer, Vijay Bhai. We take the next question. There's many questions coming through, so it's good to see you guys asking so many wonderful questions. So, quick one is, why are Bilva leaves offered on Mahashivratri? Vijay Bhai?
I think there's no specific reason, but it's the most common leaf. And the thing is, that's the thing, beauty about Shiva. He doesn't want something really rare. You have to go really hard to struggle and kind of look for it and struggle and find a leaf which is, but the Bilva leaf is very beautiful in shape. It looks very nice, symmetric, and is easily available. So Shiva doesn't want you to work really hard to please him. He's actually making it easy for you, easy to please. He also make it easy for you. So that's the unique thing about Shiva. I mean, if you notice in India, when you go on the roadside, you see a very, very small little, temple, like just a little, very tiny construction, maybe of wood or some stone, and a little, shivling in there. That's it, and you don't have to get stuff. You just pick a leaf somewhere and you just pray him, and Shiva is happy. And that's the uniqueness about Shiva. You can have, the great 12 Bara Jyotirlings temples of India. You also have the roadside temple of Shiva. And in both cases, you can give whatever you want. I guess Bilva leaf, I'm not sure if there's any mythological story that I'm aware of, but by and large, it's quite commonly available in India. That's what I can add. Sitaben?
Yeah, there's not much more I can add because it's a common leaf in India, but we're an international Hindu community now, and Bilva leaves are not necessarily available. So you can offer an oak leaf, you can offer whatever leaf it is, and I'm sure that Shiva won't mind.
Wonderful answer, Sitaben and Vijay. So one question is this Sak tradition. There is a Shiva tradition and there is the Sak tradition, the tradition that worship the mother goddess, and mother goddess is considered central deities in that one. Is there any link between Sak and Shiva tradition? And yes, that's the question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yes. Yeah. So, I mean, this is the wonderful thing, is this idea of the male and female sitting together in equal sort of authority really sits well with the Shiva tradition. And they sort of synergize and support each other. So they sit together equally, and unlike sort of, Vishnu and Lakshmi, where Lakshmi is sort of pressing the feet of Vishnu, there's no way that Parvati would agree to do that. And she is shown in a very sort of simple way. There's no sort of special features about her. But when she decides that she wants to do something powerful, she can transform into Durga, or she can transform into Kali. And those forms basically show the sort of inherent sort of power that we have as females to get out there and do something and be empowered. And that's what these images show, this image of Durga with many sort of divine weapons and seated on a tiger, to make sure that, hey, I'm not a pushover. I can stand my ground, and I can, defeat demons in my own right. I don't need to rely on the men to do that for me. So in a way, it's a beautiful tradition. And this idea of Navratri and celebrating, the female power is a wonderful tradition, and it's very popular in certain parts of India especially. So we should honor the male as well as the female, and we have to go with whichever tradition suits us the best, whichever one we are most inclined towards. Vijay bhai?
Sorry, yeah, not much to add. I think that, Sita, you kind of pretty much covered it. All I can add is that when I was young, I remember a story. I actually asked this question: why do you have, Parvati and Shiva separate temples and sometimes together? So the classic analogy I used to get from my father was that sometimes when you don't talk to your parents, you don't talk to both of them together. Sometimes when you discuss with your father, sometimes you discuss with your mother. You don't discuss everything, depending on your kind of angle, how you take things. So if you want something, and if you want something, then of course you go ask your mother, right? That's why it's quite common to do. People do mantras, they do some sort of penance to Mother Goddess. Then there's no Mother Goddess will give them something, right? But by and large, it's beautiful thing that we have this option of worshiping God in the male form or the female form. So in both these scenarios, I mean, quite often people say that the male is the timeless, formless, the unchanging entity, and then you got the manifesting power of Brahman, which is the feminine power, the Shakti, which brings things into motion and brings change and transformation. So they actually link to each other. I guess so both are valid. I'm quite comfortable going to both temples. So, and also in some temples when Parvati and Shiva together, I'm happy too as well. So we got all options, lucky us, So that's all I can add, Manish bhai.
Wonderful answer, Vijay bhai. So one thing is, this yoga tradition, the part of yoga seems to be coming from Shiva tradition, and so is the dance form that seemed to be originated from Shiva tradition as well. What is the story behind this, Vijay bhai?
So, okay, two questions. So, one, I think the thing is, again, Shiva is very unique. As I said, because Shiva is, the way people worship Shiva is so versatile and so broad, he can be seen as Nataraj or, in the Yogi Raj. And Yogi Raj, we actually see him as Adi Yogi, the first yogi ever, in the universe. So meditation form, but dance is also, as Sita mentions quite often, that dance is very much part of spirituality. So we have both these forms, and you can approach God in both ways. In simple, calm, contemplative manner, sit under a tree in the middle of nowhere, very silent, just the Himalayan breeze, and you meditate and, you reflect inwards. But hey, if you want to be energetic and, dedicate yourself through a dance form, through a physical energy, physical kind of exercise, in a very focused manner, in a very disciplined manner, both require discipline, right? So they can use the dance form as well. So the Tandav dance is one of the most beautiful dances you can ever see. And I know that on Mahashivratri, in many temples in India at night, some of the India's top performance of, dance performers actually come and perform the Tandav dance as well. So by and large, both shows you again the beautiful diversity, kind of quite opposite, right? One is calm, contemplative, sitting down, meditating. One is the amazing dance form. Both can be seen as linked to Shiva. So very amazing in that sense. Sita Ben?
Yeah, no, I think you covered it amazingly. So it just shows the inherently pluralistic nature of making spiritual progress, because as Vijay Bhai said, they're two very different disciplines, but they all point towards the same direction essentially. So you have to sort of see what your temperament is, and like for example, when I was little, my parents tried to stick me into dance classes and I couldn't do it. So just let go. So that's not for me, but for many people it is the right way to go. And for others, the idea of meditation is suited, but it doesn't just go to just those two disciplines. It could be anything. As we have previously discussed, it could be science, it could be music, it could be so many other disciplines that we have, because they all point towards the same journey. Because spiritual progress is all about focusing your mind, and you can do that in so many ways. You can do it through meditation, through dance, through music, through poetry, whatever way suits you. It's all a process of focusing our minds and understanding who we truly are.
Wonderful stuff, Sita Ben. Take the next question. And there is a story of origination of Ganga. And I think it comes from this, not sure, it's in Ramayana as well, it's there, I think Valmiki or Tulsi Ramayana, that there's the story of the Sagar, King Sagar and his sons, and they were killed by curse from a rishi, and to liberate them, their generations of people did meditation and made, they had Ganga appear in front of them and agree that she will come down to earth to, wash away the sins of all these people. And for Ganga to come down, they said if someone needs to catch her, otherwise she will go straight into the underworld, the Patal Lok. And Shiva caught Ganga in his mat. And that's the story part. Now, what question should I ask about it? Where is that story from? And what is the significance behind this story, Vijay bhai?
I think, again, this is part of the Shiv Purana, I guess, a lot of mythological stories. I think it's King Bhagirath, I believe, who's seen as descendant of the great Mahabharata kings. And because of all the sins that they committed in the entire lineage of kings, so that how do I kind of wash the kings away? And, kings fight mighty battles and have incur a lot of sin as a fact. So I guess the coming of Ganga is one way, the water from the heavens, and brings it down and, of course, wash the sins away. And as you know, the story that Shiva caught Ganga in his matlock and walked down slowly all the way to the ocean, and the rivers kind of trickled down. But that's the mythological story. But anyway, the significance is this: the fact that Hindus deify water is in itself the biggest lesson from this. Because don't forget, the Indo-Gangetic Plain kind of sustains over 300 million people. I mean, we can just say it's just water, H2O, and forget about it. Yeah, so what? But the fact that we deify water and make it Mother Ganga, that is the big thing here. And the thing is that we actually revere water. Let's face it, no matter how powerful, intelligent we are, no water, we die. Simple as that. So the fact that we give this amazing status to, I mean, actually all rivers in India are worshipped and worship. I think we're, again, we're so lucky that we do this. It reminds us constantly that life, a lot of things sustain us in life, like, Surya worship or Ganga worship. So it's so beautiful that we do that. I mean, if you ever go to River Ganga, just keep one thing in mind, the 300 million people are actually sustained by this beautiful river. That is enough to make it worthy of worship. Forget anything else, right? I mean, that's the beauty about it. But I think the story has a bit more significance. It makes it heavenly. This is not just ordinary river, which comes from Himalayan glaciers. It's actually from the heavens. And that gives it an extra, kind of spiritual angle to it. And that's a beautiful thing. I think we should revere that, beautiful story. Sita Ben?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's just wonderful to sort of infuse spirituality into our everyday lives through these wonderful sort of traditions of deifying the natural forces like water and sun and fire and all of that. It's really, really wonderful. But when I do think of the state of the Ganga at the moment, the way it is, it just, you'd be really worried, frankly, to tell anyone to take a dip in it. So I think we've got a long way to go in terms of repurifying it, in terms of an environmental perspective, because it does get misused. The whole sort of environmental system does get misused. And, we do need to sort of focus on how can we cleanse it? How can we stop people, dumping all sorts of stuff into it? Keep it pure, keep it beautiful, because it is essentially, linked so beautifully into our tradition, into our spiritual inheritance. And, you've got the idea of Kashi as well, because the River Ganga flows through Kashi as well. And again, that whole city is sort of, permeated with spirituality because it's linked with Shiva. It's the abode of Shiva on earth. So Hinduism is very wonderful in that way. It really deifies everything in the environment and around it. But I think especially in terms of the Ganga, we need to do something about it. It's really not in a good state at the moment.
Wonderful stuff, Sita Ben. We got storytelling hub saying in India, females do fasting and do Mahashivratri for getting a good husband. And many people, worship Shiva for many different reasons, and that's all fine. And that's one of the good reason to, and many people, what we could say is many people get into spirituality for all these reasons, and then you go higher from there as well. So that's the beautiful thing. The next question we take is, why is milk offered on Sivalingam and the symbolism behind it? Sita Ben?
So milk is one of those things, I guess, which, we have for thousands of years, seen as something sort of precious and valuable that we have, because we had cows and we started living alongside cows, and that's why cows are held with such sacred status, because they helped us to settle down into sort of agriculture and farming and all of these wonderful things which helped us to not be hunter-gatherers and just rummage around for food wherever we go. It helped us focus our lifestyle and also helped us focus on other things besides basic survival. So the cow and having milk, having a supply of milk close to us in the form of a cow is seen as something incredibly valuable. So we think when we want to offer something to God, we think, what is the best thing that we can offer? So, I mean, I don't know if this is exactly 100% accurate, but my take on it is that milk was considered to be a valuable resource and still is. So why not offer the best that we have to God? So I think that's probably why milk is poured on Shiva Linga, but it's also poured on other deities as well, because we want to give the best that we have to God. Vijay Bhai?
I think, Sita, I fully agree with you on that. I think milk is basically seen as a precious resource. And I think today, because milk production increased by many, many fold, you'd be surprised. I remember talking to some of my elders, and milk was actually, you may be surprised, not as easy to get as people think it was. Okay, you had some milk, a half glass of milk or something, but it was quite precious because, again, not everybody could afford to have cows. So if you offer a little bit of milk, maybe a couple of teaspoons, you're seen as something precious. So I think that's the main link to it. It's just something, a good, precious resource that you offer to Shiva, basically. Yeah.
Wonderful, Vijay Bhai. We take the next question, and there's a story in Purana, Bhagavad Purana as well. The story of Samudra Manthan and this halahal wish originate from the Manthan, and no one wanted to drink that. And Shiva came forward and said, only I can handle it. And he drank that, and after that he's cold. His throat got this blue color, and it's called Nilkant. So the question was, how did Shiva handle the poison, Vijay Bhai?
So again, people, okay, from what I understand, what I read is Shiva used his immense yogic powers to actually consume that poison, yes, and destroy its potency. But yeah, that's right. Actually, quite often, it's quite an interesting, beautiful story about Samudra Manthan. People just know the idea of Amrut story that came out. But before that, Kamdhenu cow came out. So much that churning was a serious business with huge amount of, deities and danas, trying to churn that ocean big time. So you can even churn something huge like the ocean, you get a lot of stuff coming out it. I can't remember the story fully now, but I know so many things came out if you look at the Puranic story. But luckily, we're only aware of 2 or 3 things, which is basically the wish and the Amrut, right? But I know other things came out as well. But the main thing is Shiva used immense yogic powers to actually consume and destroy potency. That's my understanding on the story. Yeah. So, Sita Ben.
Yeah, there's not much more I can add apart from, yes, so in a lot of these sort of mythological stories, everyone sort of runs to a particular deity to save the day. And we've got loads of different deities within Hinduism, and, all the other gods, they're like, there's a problem here. Who can we run to? And you've got plenty of stories around Vishnu and the avatars, and you've got plenty of stories of Shiva as well, like in the Shiv Puran as well. So Shiva is the one who saves the day. So this is the wonderful thing. You can read wonderful, colourful stories based on whichever one is your favourite deity, and they're the one that comes along and saves the day. And in this story, I think Shiva and Vishnu sort of work alongside each other to sort of, defeat the demons and let the gods win. And it's a lovely, colourful story. And, right from childhood, if you sort of tell your children these stories, they seem magical and fascinating, and it draws them towards spirituality. So rather than getting too sort of tangled up on the technicalities, just enjoy the beauty of the story. And it makes you feel closer towards the deities, to spirituality, and making your own spiritual progress.
Wonderful stuff. We got a viewer sent a nice comment saying, Mahashivratri is the day to honor and celebrate Lord Shiva, honor life and celebrate existence. Most people spend the day of Mahashivratri in prayer, meditation, and celebration. Here is a list of what to do on Mahashivratri. Observe fasting, meditate, chant Om Namah Shivaya, attend Mahashivratri Puja or Rudra Puja, worship the Shivalingam. And one more thing that people do is do Jagran, that is stay awake whole night, or some people do up to midnight and do this chanting of Om Namah Shivaya and stuff like that. What is the reason behind doing this Jagran, or staying awake in the night and doing this chants and stuff, Sitaben?
So this is the thing. These are various rituals that we do, and the purpose of these rituals is to be a form of discipline. This is what we teach at GCSE, to be a discipline on ourselves, that we can control our physical requirements in order to make spiritual progress. So we fast to say, we're not just like wild animals. We can control our diet, we can control our sleep, so that we can make spiritual progress. And by sort of imposing these disciplines on ourselves, we are sort of making time away from our sort of daily routine to think about higher things. Because by fasting and thinking, oh, I can't eat that, you're then saying, oh, there is a reason behind that, and it's a spiritual reason, and it means that we are more than the physical. Essentially, we can transcend our physical requirements and needs for a short period of time in order to sort of recollect and remember higher things and make spiritual progress. Because if we don't impose these kind of these rituals within festivals, it's very easy for our lives to literally just run by. Weeks, months, years just go by without really making any kind of progress. So these festivities, these rituals give us a chance to say, hey, let's stop everything now. Let's focus on spiritual progress. Let's focus on the deity that we adore. Let's focus on Shiva or Vishnu or whoever it is, and make that spiritual progress. Because otherwise, by the time you retire, you're like 70 or something, and you haven't really done anything in terms of spiritual progress. So these festivals and rituals are a wonderful pause from our everyday life to think about higher things. Vijay Bhai?
I think, Sita, you've pretty much covered it. All I can add is that, like the idea of chanting, I know for many young youth, they find it so boring. Why do you keep on chanting or chanting? But it's actually a form of discipline. And it actually focuses your mind as well. I think there have been some studies done on, I think, Tibetan Buddhists by some universities where they chant, continue to chant. And it's been seen that they got tremendous focus, and the awareness increases by many fold. So it's again a discipline. And I think, as Sita mentioned, that we need these festivals to remind us, to focus us, and all these rituals kind of help us, in all this, basically in becoming more spiritual, by becoming more disciplined and taking some time away, as Sita mentioned, to focus on our spiritual side as well, not just the material side. Yeah, that's all I can add to it, Manish Bhai.
Wonderful, Vijay Bhai. So we got a question from Jack Hart. He's saying, can you tell us about your favorite story about Lord Shiva? Vijay Bhai, you first.
Okay, I'll tell you one story, this interesting story. I know from a young age, I was told the story that about this demon who worshipped Shiva day and night. And then Shiva was not coming that easily for some reason. Maybe Shiva was busy somewhere. And they said, okay, if you don't come, I'm going to cut my flesh and offer it in the fire. So he took his knife and was going to cut his leg off. And Shiva said, whoa, please wait, please don't do that, right? And he goes, okay, what do you want? He goes, if I touch somebody's head, that person dies. And Shiva must be in a good mood. Said, okay, tathastu, there you go, take that, I give you that boon. And then after a while, he said, oh, but this devotee, this was the demon devotee, he was still a bit dumb. So, okay, but how do I know if this really works? So he goes to Shiva, shall I try it? I don't know if it's going to work. Let me try it on you. And Shiva goes, what are you doing? You should be coming to me. I just gave you this boon. I'm going to try it on you. How do I know if it works? Then, of course, he went to Brahma, and Brahma goes, Shiva, you're too easy to please. And you just give boons away like that. I'm sorry, I can't help you, right? You should be more careful next time. So he went to the mother goddess, nothing happened. His story from the Vishnu Puran, by the way. Then he went to Vishnu. And Vishnu being the clever and cunning, and he goes, what? I tell you what, hide behind, just go behind and hide, I'll handle him. So this demon came and said, but where's Shiva? I think he's tricked me. He's actually lied to me. And Vishnu goes, why? What do you mean lied to you? What happened? He gave me this boon that if I touch somebody's head, that person dies. And now he doesn't want me to try it on him because I suspect now he might not be a proper boon. He might just be tricking me. And Vishnu goes, what? Sometimes Shiva can be very cheeky. I'm pretty sure he may not give this boon to you. I tell you what you can do. Why don't you just try it on yourself and see if it works, right? Which is, of course, what he did. And he just fell there. So anyway, this is just one of the stories I kind of remember from a young age. But there are very many, many beautiful stories about Shiva. So, so anyway, Sita, your turn.
There is one story that I really like because it sort of emphasizes the non-theistic angle that the Shiva tradition brings, and it's kind of to do with Ganesh as well. So it's a story where Shiva and Parvati, they set a challenge to their sons Ganesh and Kartikeya, who can go around the universe the quickest. And Kartikeya, he's got a very speedy peacock, and he jumps on the peacock and starts zipping off across the universe at light speed. And you have Ganesh, who's not quite so fast on his feet and he's got his little mouse, and Ganesh is much more sort of wise and clever compared to Kartikeya in this story. And Ganesh says, to his little mouse, come on, Mousey, let's go around Shiva and Parvati. So he made them sit down, Shiva and Parvati in the center. And then Ganesh goes very, very slowly around Shiva and Parvati with his little mouse. And then he bows down, and then he says, oh, I've got time for another round. And he goes round again. And he does this 3 times. And then he goes and sits down next to Shiva and Parvati. In the meantime, Kartikeya comes speeding back from going around the whole universe, which is already an amazing feat. And he's back huffing and puffing with his peacock, who's also huffing and puffing. And he's amazed to see Ganesh already sat there. And he said, Ganesh, you haven't even started this whole journey. I've already finished going around the whole universe. But Ganesh says, well, you know, Shiva and Parvati, they are the universe. They are manifested in everything across the universe. So I've just gone around Shiva and Parvati 3 times, not just once. So I've gone around the universe 3 times. So I've beaten you already. So that's the wonderful sort of angle that you get from the Shiva tradition, is this sort of non-dualistic Hinduism, this idea that everything in the universe percolates with spirit.
Wonderful story, Sitaben. My favorite is, I think there was one hunter or Parde in India, I would say. He, on the Mahashivratri day, was sat on a tree waiting for a prey, some animal to kill. And whilst waiting, he kept on plucking leaves and throwing down. And fortunately, there was a Sivalingam at the bottom of the tree, and those leaves were reaching there. And because he didn't have anything to eat, his whole vigil turned into a fast as well. And all these things automatically happened, and he stayed up all night, and therefore he had this wonderful Mahashivratri worship. And because of that, Shiva was pleased with his worship, and appeared to him and say, you can have whatever boon you want. So pleased to, so easy to please Shiva. And that's wonderful to see that I think for spirituality, what it means is you don't have to, be very, do something special. What you need is intent, a good intention and the willingness to do something. And that will set you on the way. And that's wonderful to see. We take a next question from Curious Creature. He's saying, does it matter if God likes Ram, Shiva actually existed or not? Is proof of their existence important in Hinduism? Vijay bhai?
No, it's not important in that sense, because the thing is, God can be seen in many different ways. As a very classic saying that, which Jay Bhai used to mention a lot in some Hinduism classes, that in the Abrahamic tradition, there's a saying that God makes man in your own image. And Hindus kind of turn it the other way around, that man make God in his own image to relate to him better. So we can choose how we want to view God. Vishnu, Shiva. But anyway, to make something something just to add to this, the fact still remains that the most, the most powerful, the all-pervasive, spiritual force of Brahman, we have to personify some way or the other to worship it. And Vishnu is a very beautiful image, beautiful looking figure. And by the way, you'll be surprised, it's not only unique to religion. Even in science, you do it quite often. There's so many abstract events, abstract objects we can't visualize, like n dimensions. We don't know. We put symbols to it. Doesn't mean the symbol is actually come alive, but symbol is representation of that abstract point. Or that idea of infinity, which Jay Bhai says a drunk ate, right? Something like that. So we do that all the time. So for personifying a form of infinite, Brahman into a form of Vishnu, Shiva, there's absolutely nothing wrong with it. Actually, it's a good thing, because it makes you focus to a deity and makes you more spiritual. You can also use any other object, doesn't matter, or any other art tool, and that's a wonderful. So it doesn't matter. There's nothing wrong in using. I mean, even the idea of Shiva, Shiva is seen as someone sitting in meditation, or Natraj dance, or Pashupatinath. If you look at the form of Pashupatinath, he's got, some people put animal, kind of with horns and everything. So all kinds of images can be made to worship the divine. Whatever suits you. I mean, sometimes people have different images to worship at different times. I worship Shakti, I want to worship on some strength. I worship Parvati in the form of, Durga with multi-arms. Why not, right? Like that. See, so it depends. If you want to playing music, then Parvati transforms into, Saraswati, and you practice the Veena. So there's absolutely nothing. I think it's a good thing if you have that kind of mind, because any image to worship, it doesn't really matter if they're actually real, because it's a representation of the ultimate Brahman. Sita Ben?
Oh, yeah, and I think you've covered it amazingly. So all of these are ways, or as Dad used to say, ploys, to help focus our minds on making spiritual progress, because, it's very lovely and poetic to talk about non-theistic Hinduism, but from a perspective of a human mindset, it's very, very difficult to make spiritual progress in that way. So having any of these amazing deities that we have and focusing your mind on them, that's what helps to focus your mind. And that's what we were saying previously, is that any sort of disciplined human endeavor, focusing your mind helps towards making spiritual progress. And having these images of deities helps to focus our mind in the same way as Vijaypa was saying about science, because the only way that we can get a handle on the subtleties of the universe and reality is by using symbols, by using imagery, because we are limited in our sort of mindset, and we need to make use of whatever we can, whatever handles that we can, to open the door towards the spirit.
Wonderful answer, Sita Ben, Vijay Bhai. We take a last question and then we'll wrap up. The question is from Kumar Sanket. He's asking, can you please shed some light on the meaning, significance, and correct usage of Mahamrutyunjay mantra? Sita Ben?
With that mantra and with any mantra, the whole purpose again is, what can you use that focuses your mind? So when you sit down to meditate, that's what I found anyway. It's very, very easy for your mind to sort of diverge and think about all sorts of other things, anything apart from what you're supposed to be focusing on. So having a mantra there to focus your mind can really go a long way towards making spiritual progress. And some people say even the sort of vibrations which are produced by reciting those mantras have a very special meaning. They have a potency behind them as well. So you get the double benefit of focusing your mind and also feeling the sort of rhythmic and benefits of reciting these mantras. And whichever mantra you choose, whether it's dedicated to Shiva, the Mother Goddess, Vishnu, they all focus our mind. And when you sit down to meditate, that's all that you're supposed to be focused on. And that's why sometimes people turn rosary beads while they're repeating the name of God or doing various mantras. They're all ways that we use to focus our minds on spirituality. Vijay, please?
Yeah, I think this mantra, I believe, is from the Rig Veda, but yeah, this is again a very famous mantra which is recited many, many times. And Sita mentioned, by and large, mantras are forms of discipline which makes you focus. And I think this mantra, I believe, is linked to Shiva as well. Though there's no mention of Shiva directly in the Rig Veda, but it's linked to Shiva as I think it's called the Triyam Om. I can't remember the mantra now, but by and large, it's Triyam. I can't pronounce it.
Okay, let me have a go. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Stivardhanam Urvarukumyo Bandhanat Mrutyor Mukshayamamrita.
Yeah, I can't say it exactly, but there you go. But that's a very famous mantra linked to Shiva. But I think the mantra is saying idea of give me prosperity and free me from death, I think, something like that. But as I said, there's so many famous mantras Sita Ben mentioned, and they all have the same idea to discipline you and focus your mind on spirituality. Yeah.
Wonderful. So it's been 1 hour since we started almost. And what an interesting discussion we've had today. We've learned so much about Shiva. We've learned so much about Mahashivratri. And typically what we would do is the focus topic would normally be about 20-30 minutes maximum. Today we've dedicated the entire session to this because there was a lot of interest, a lot of questions, thoughts, comments that people had shared online. And we just let it roll so that we can cover this topic thoroughly and nicely. So folks, thank you so much for joining us. We will be live again next Saturday at 2 o'clock. So please do join us again. In case your question has not been answered this week, please do join us back next week. Ask the question again. We will try and answer it live if possible. And before we leave, I'd just like to bring again one more thing back to mind, which is that as we go about our week, please do say a prayer for the people in Ukraine who are going through some troubling times at the moment. And as you know, I like to close with a quote from Swami Vivekananda, and perhaps this is something the Russian president could do with as well. If you can go on practicing meditation for days and months and years until it becomes a habit, until it comes in spite of yourself, anger and hatred will be controlled and checked. So with that, I wish you all a very, very wonderful week ahead. And let me just bring back my team. And we will say thank you so very much and see you next week on Saturday at 2 o'clock as always. Bye-bye for now.